The year 2020 marks the 150th anniversary of the ratification of the 15th Amendment and 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Together, these two amendments dramatically changed America's political landscape, more than doubling the size of the electorate and granting the vote to millions of citizens who had previously been denied access to the ballot because of their race or gender.
15th Amendment was ratified in 1870, one of three amendments to the Constitution enacted after the Civil War aimed at attaining equality for recently emancipated slaves. 15th Amendment provides that the right to vote may not be denied, quote, on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Ratified in 1920, the 19th Amendment guarantees that the right to vote, quote, shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex, end quote. Its passage granted the right to vote to women who were United States citizens. It took several generations before women and men voted in equal numbers, but the 19th Amendment paved the way for women to assert themselves in the electoral process and in politics generally.
Today, there are only a few requirements in order to become a U.S. voter. Although each state may have their own requirements, for all states, in order to register to vote, an applicant must be a U.S. citizen, a legal resident of the state, and 18 years old on or before the date of election. However, the freedom to vote hasn't always been this way. Many court cases address the voting rights of women and minorities, along with inconsistencies of the Constitution.
Weiner versus Happersett, a pre-19th Amendment decision holding that denying women the rights to vote did not violate the Constitution. The 19th Amendment later overruled this case by prohibiting discrimination in voting rights based on sex. Elk versus Wilkins, in which the court held that Native Americans by tribal birth and affiliation were not, quote, natural-born citizens, end quote, of the United States, and thus their right to vote was not protected by the 14th and 15th Amendments. Later, the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924 was enacted, which established citizenship for Indians previously excluded by the U.S. Constitution. Harper versus Virginia Board of Elections, in which the court held that poll taxes were unconstitutional. South Carolina versus Katzenbach, holding the Congress had the authority under the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to ensure continued compliance with the 15th Amendment by requiring states with histories of enforcing discriminatory voting laws to receive pre-authorization from federal authorities before instituting new voting laws.
Would I make any additional changes to Americans' voting rights? No, because there are already many informed barriers present today that suppress voting rights among many Americans. These include the ways in which some states have created barriers to voting, such as voter ID. Many states have enacted or are drafting laws that require voters to possess specific government-issued photo IDs. Voter purges. Voter purges remove voters from registration lists in the name of keeping those lists up to date. Criminal disenfranchisement. Criminal disenfranchisement laws strip the right to vote from people with past criminal convictions, which heavily suppresses voter turnout. However, these laws differ by state. Ignoring accessibility. Election materials and polling places must be accessible under federal law. Foreign language voters are entitled to assistance and materials in their own language, and voters with disabilities are entitled to receive assistance to vote if requested. This is often ignored for various reasons and suppresses voter turnout. If anything, I'd like to limit these barriers and give Americans their entitled freedom to vote. It would ensure that every American has the right to vote and increase participation in the elective process. Thank you for listening.